So I think we both can agree that covering a range of scenarios, and definitely if you have the tools, the mathematical tools today to assign probabilities to different futures, is extremely insightful for many organizations. What I'm thinking about, and perhaps if you could tell me from your experience working with supply chain organizations, how could you adjust your process in a way that would allow to absorb these insights into actual plans? Because you have a complex system running. You need to order the raw materials. You need to slot the production. You need to ensure that you have a kind of the inventory doesn't blow up, that you have enough sales to ensure the service level that you promise to your customer. How do you take these probabilities into account in real life, complex operational industrial setup?
Yeah. So I think it's a crawl, walk, run thing. Luckily, we're not a consultancy, so we don't have to build a process. We're a tech company. So what I would say is the most practical thing to start with is to just consume more insights. So if I have a forecast, now I have a point forecast and probabilistic forecasting. Okay. So the demand planning team and the supply planning team, depends on how they collaborate, okay, can say, okay, so this is still my consensus. I'm still choosing a 1 point consensus. Okay, sure. Okay. But I'm aware of the fact that this product is bound to crash or is bound to have a surge. How do I take that into consideration? Okay. How do I focus on that? Okay. So that's one thing. So I'm still in my consensus world. Okay. But now I have another layer of information. I think even practicing that conversation has more value than just looking at a number, saying, okay, I don't really understand why, okay? Rather than saying, okay, so this product is volatile, okay? It does have sometimes unprecedented surges. How do I quantify that? Do I want a consensus upon that, or will I roll it into a decision about what is the cost of serving, let's say, in those scenarios? Okay, so still practicing your same practical process first, but having more information. Another nice story is that, like we have on the supply side, we also see like a process change that also comes very, very naturally. So both on both sides. So our system obviously supports continuous planning. It means that you can generate plans continuously, okay, in minutes, which is like super fast, but people still run their monthly process. Now, every day they have a new forecast. Every day they can have a new supply plan and feedback and whatever. So they say, no, I'm doing my monthly process, but you see, or they do a freeze. We have a freeze in the system, sure. Freeze the plan. Okay. But you see that then the planner says, yeah, I want the freeze, but I still want to see every day what's happening there. Okay. So you see that the continuity is actually tempting for the teams to really get the insights daily and understand what's happening, rather than let's define a process, let's do the change management, and then you'll start working, 90 degrees from what you knew all your life.
I I like it. I mean, one very practical thing I saw implemented at one of my clients is they had this weekly exception huddle, right?
Mhm.
So instead of again rerunning the entire SNOP process with Excel with 45 columns of comments from different parts of the organization, V9, final, 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 you have a small weekly exception huddle, 45 charts, right? Okay, this is what we thought. Here's how demand evolved. This band was breached. This is the supply risk we have. Kind of what is we are beyond this cost trigger. How do we respond? And again, and this is exactly to your point of implementing this range of outcome thinking, you bake it into your process, particularly and there are times when that are more stable and there are times that are more volatile. So if you can tailor and create this group, it could really help take in these insights, these probabilistic insights that you can generate today into your process.
Exactly. So when we crawl, okay, or even before we crawl, okay, what I say is keep what you're doing. Just add another layer of information that may be valuable. By the way, may be game changing. Okay, so that's like one step. Now we're at a place where some of our customers are more mature. I mean, they're used to it. They're starting to get the hang of it. Okay, now they're asking about the process. Okay, so I wake up in the morning. I have all these new capabilities. Do I focus? What do I do? And we do find ourselves as a tech company starting to say, okay, so as a demand planner, you wake up in the morning and now this is your focus. And this is what you're looking at. You're both looking at places where demand diverges, okay, and things that you want to focus on, but you also look at places where uncertainty arises, okay? And we support that in the platform because we understand that this is the new focus of, let's call it the rising process, okay? On the other hand, okay, on the supply side or the SNOP, we start to merge things together and say, okay, wait a second. So now I can actually see all scenarios all together. Okay, it's super visual and nice. Okay, you can book a demo and see. But I actually see, okay, that I'm holding too much inventory, or like my safety stock policy is like too high. So we are building it in a very intuitive way, okay, that even when I look at ranges, okay, if I never cross from the top, the 1,000 pieces line, it means that I hold too much inventory. I hold 1,000 pieces more than I will ever need according to all probabilities. So of course, maybe I'm waiting for the next COVID. Okay, that's also a decision. Okay, but you're probably not. Okay, and you're probably holding. Let's say I've heard people, claiming that they hold billions of dollars of excess inventory. Okay, so let's just
Yeah.
take
And you
10
know
to
what? At
20%.
least you can create a real trade-off discussion within management. So you're saying, listen, guys, the inventory levels that you hold
Mm-hmm.
are in the, will provide your service level with 99% degree confidence. Is it not?
Exactly.
And it's costing you millions of dollars every year, right? Are you okay with 95% confidence, right? Are you okay with 90? Or actually, can we use pricing bands to make sure that it
Control.
actually covers that once we hit, a low inventory point, we just prices to monitor demand. So these are some of the discussions that you can have once you have the analytical backbone to tell you this is the probability range for your commercial objectives you're operating in, which I don't think many companies actually have today.
No, and actually, I think once you get used to it, it's actually easy because it's really hard to obligate to one number and put all your bets in one place. It's easier to say, oh, sure, I cover 90% of all probable scenarios. Okay, there's the 10%. By the way, you can always say, no, I don't want Hexade's probabilities. I want to take the range super super wide. Sure, but eventually, it's easier. It helps you like let go of all sorts of data stuff and all sorts of accuracy obsession. Now, it's not that we don't think that you have to add outside planning, like external information, and you can improve your forecast as much as possible. It also helps probabilistic forecasting. We don't say don't forecast or don't do that. We just say let's understand that things are going to shift. Let's try to assess, okay, not one number, but the range and the likelihood of things. Okay. And then let's try to, first of all, evaluate our plan before even we make a new plan that is super cool and, has its, own decisions and recommendations. Let's evaluate our plan and understand where our vulnerabilities, okay, where it's coming from, demand, supply, capacity. Okay. Where are my bottlenecks? Create the options to deal with it or not. Decide I'm not going to invest there. And then obviously you can use what we call our co-planner, which is to generate a new plan according to what we set as an objective of getting to a higher service level, low inventory, profitability. Okay, so the business objective, but it's all through your guardrails. So now that we're at a part where we have the base and we can crawl, now that we're learning to walk, okay, before we run, what we're doing is we're starting to give pieces of the process. So we won't tell you you have to change your whole process, okay? But we have a process for demand planning, okay? That gives you just another leverage upon the classical consensus and then with probabilities in mind. And we give you the supply planning, but now it's actually a whole supply plan that can be generated in 3 minutes and you can react really fast, okay? And now what we want to do is give you the joystick or the levers to say, okay, this is my policy. These are my ranges, okay? And my guardrails for whoever plans. It's either the Hexite agent or it's the planning team. It doesn't really matter. These are the decisions. And then in an SNOP meeting, you can discuss the trade-offs, okay? And you can also see the exceptions of where am I crossing my policy. The easiest policy that we can think of is service levels, okay, or inventory is also, max inventory or stuff like that. But the service level in itself, okay, so I can say I cannot tolerate less than 88% service level, okay? So you have this range, and you're saying if I don't cross it, like that's like my red line. With a probabilistic system, you can actually say, okay, there's a likelihood that I will drop to 85. I will cross that line, but it's only like a 3% likelihood, okay? The cost of mitigating that is $1 million. So what we're trying to do is really build these pieces, but not still dictate what is the cadence and who is doing that.
And I love your analogy of a joystick. And I'm almost thinking about it as like a DJ panel where you can play with different parts and adjust it to your objectives. Because I can tell you, the objectives of an organization, and often even a division within a larger organization, they change from year to year. So I've seen times in which the CEO is really keen on cash flow generation and reducing inventory levels, and that's the main priority. It goes above anything else, right? And I've seen times in which you're trying to enter a new market, in which your primary priority is market share gain and ensuring that any customer that calls you gets their product, right? That's the first priority. And there are times in which you need to dress the bride a bit toward a sale, and you're really concerned about your EBITDA and margin levels, right? And so there you want to have policies that protect that margin almost at the expense of any others. Now, if you give that menu to an executive, often a senior executive, and you have the conversation around how much margin am I willing to sacrifice to ensure that that customer is served at the highest level, or how much inventory am I willing to hold to enable that market share gain that I've committed on, it creates a much smarter conversation in the executive team. And particularly if it's informed, as I said, with an analytical background that tells you at 95% probability, you will not surpass this level of demand.
And it shifts the conversation from alignment on volumes or numbers to alignment on the real objective of the business.
Yeah, alignment on policies. So
Yeah.
instead of prove your number, it's prove your policy, right?
Yeah. Is
Form
this
forecasts, they inform, but policies actually decide. And that's, I think, a bit of a switch in the mindset of the organization oftentimes.
so yeah, so like a lot of vendors like say, yeah, everything is siloed, let's merge everything and break the silos, and it's like a very popular thing. But what I'm hearing here specifically with our conversations lately is that we actually moved from like siloed, okay, then we as a community, to concurrency and breaking the silos and really being more aligned, which is very, very important. We are trying to resilo or restructure things in a way that we don't need alignment now all the time, but rather alignment on the ranges or the policy, okay, so that the silos can act within the policy without the whole process of alignment. If that's
You're saying